There are plenty of famous pairs of family members to play in the National Football League over the years. It's a heck of an accomplishment for any family to have one of their kids play in the league and play at the highest level that football has to offer. But to have two? There's something in the genes, I'll put it that way. You've got the Sharp brothers, with both Sterling and Shannon being some of the greatest to ever do it at their respective positions, and being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You've got the Watt brothers, with JJ and TJ being two of the greatest pass rushers in the history of the sport. You've got the Manning brothers, with Eli and Peyton each having won multiple Super Bowls and being near the top of the NFL across all passing categories. You get the idea. I'd be here all day if I listed every single pair of family members to play in the NFL, because it's a bit more common than you might think. However, while some pairs of family members did very well in the NFL, others did not fare as well. Because this man right here that you've been watching is Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Jack Thompson, and he was the first round pick of the Cincinnati Bengals in 1979, because they somehow thought it was a good idea to take a quarterback that early on, despite Ken Anderson being 30 years old and being a pretty solid quarterback. If you thought that the Denver Broncos taking Tommy Maddox in round one of the 1992 NFL Draft with John Elway still in his prime was an asinine decision, this was in the same boat. You might know about Jack Thompson, and if you don't, we'll talk about his playing days in just a little bit. But what you might not know about Thompson is that he had a cousin who also played quarterback, who also got drafted to play in the NFL. And when his cousin got drafted, Jack Thompson had some, shall we say, interesting things to say about it. As you can probably tell by the title and the thumbnail of this video, I think interesting might be the understatement of the century. Because this is the story behind the Thompson cousins, and what might just be, considering the circumstances, the worst reaction possible to a draft pick in the history of the NFL. And I do not say that lightly, because this has to be the bar for everything going forward. Before I begin, make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel. We post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL and the NFL Draft with stories like this one, which even I can't genuinely believe is real. So if you like that sort of stuff, then this is the place for you, and I would love for you to join the football-loving community that we built here. Thanks in advance for your support, and with that in mind, let's talk about Jack Thompson, his cousin, and a certain European leader. Seriously. Before I talk about what exactly transpired with the draft pick in question, we need some context to understand just who the man who said the comments was in the first place: Jack Thompson. The Cincinnati Bengals drafted Thompson in the first round of a 1979 NFL Draft with a third overall pick, which always seems like a really bad idea for the Bengals to draft a quarterback third overall, as somehow this isn't even the worst instance of this happening in franchise history. There were some pretty good quarterbacks from that draft class, like Phil Simms and Joe Montana. Jack Thompson was not one of them. He was supposed to be the successor to Ken Anderson, but there were two problems with that plan. Number one, Ken Anderson was still a really good quarterback and would win the MVP and guide the Bengals to the Super Bowl during the 1981 season, their first in franchise history. And number two, Jack Thompson freaking sucked. In his 4 seasons with the Bengals, the man completed just 47% of his passes while throwing 13 touchdowns and 19 interceptions, winning just 1 game as a starting quarterback. There's a reason that you're seeing a ton of his lowlights, and that's because he wasn't very good. How the actual heck the Bengals were able to swindle the Buccaneers later on into giving them a first-round pick for him after the 1982 season is beyond me. But then again, the Bucs were incompetent under Hugh Culverhouse, so I guess it shouldn't surprise me. To give you an idea of how bad Jack Thompson was, he threw 370 passes with the Bengals. He was one of 46 quarterbacks from 1979 to 82 to attempt at least 228 passes. If you're wondering where the heck I got that number, that's 5 pass attempts per game, seeing as it was a 16-game season from 1979 to 81 and a 9-game season in 1982. Of those 46 quarterbacks, to attempt at least 5 passes per game over that 4-year stretch, Thompson ranked 44th in passer rating. Guys like Scott Bruner, Mike Phipps, David Whitehurst, and David Woodley, just to name a few, ranked above him. That's how bad Jack Thompson was. The Bengals thought he was going to be the future of the team and be the quarterback to guide them into the 1980s. And he was anything but that. As while the Bengals had good quarterback play that decade, it wasn't him who was providing it. For what it's worth, the Bengals were in the bottom half of the NFL in 1978 in sacks, and had just one player record more than 6 sacks. And the very next pick after Jack Thompson was Hall of Famer Dan Hampton. Imagine if they did that instead of reaching for a quarterback that they clearly did not need, but I digress. Anyways, Thompson was not the only quarterback in his family, because Thompson had a cousin named Samoa Samoa, as in this man right here. Samoa was a Washington State quarterback who, in 1980, started for the Cougars and was not just a solid passer, leading the Pac-10 in yards per completion, but was an exceptionally solid runner, as not only did he have 9 passing touchdowns, but he had 11 rushing touchdowns, finishing second in the conference in that category and 9th in the entire NCAA. His 11 rushing touchdowns in 1980 actually tied the school record for most rushing touchdowns in a single season, set alongside Bob Kennedy in 1941, Bernard Jackson in 1971, and Ken Granberry in 1972. Today, the record is held by Jerome Harrison, who did it in 2005. He was one of those guys that, if he made it to the NFL, no one knew what position he was going to play. Some people thought that he could play quarterback, especially after an impressive Hula Bowl performance where he was named the MVP of the game, while others had him transitioning to running back. Heck, even the Cincinnati Bengals, when they drafted him eventually, had no idea where he was going to play. One Bengal official insisted that Samoa was not a nepotism pick, and he said that he was a darn solid quarterback, saying, "We need another good quarterback," and he is one. Other Bengal officials said that Samoa would be converted from a quarterback to a running back. In other words, we were all just figuring this out on the fly, and the Bengals knew that they had to have Samoa on their roster, but just didn't know where. Either way, in the 9th round of the 1981 NFL Draft, with pick number 230, the Bengals decided to take a flyer on Jack Thompson's cousin. They were impressed with him and wanted him to play a part in the offense. And now, you were going to have 2 people in the Thompson family on the team, Jack Thompson and Samoa Samoa. And for the Thompsons, this was a pretty big deal. Not just to have 2 family members in the NFL, and not just have 2 family members on the same team, but to have 2 people from American Samoa playing in the league. Today, there are quite a few players from American Samoa that play in the National Football League. But back then, you didn't really see that. Prior to Thompson getting drafted in 1979, only 4 NFL players were from American Samoa, and 2 of them were out of the league after 2 games. So really, you had 2 players who played a considerable amount of time from American Samoa over the first 60 years of the league's history. This was a huge cultural moment that showed that American Samoa, with a population of just 29,000, could produce NFL talent and produce football players at the highest level. So naturally, this man right here, Jack Thompson, was excited about this. And at first, things were pretty normal. Thompson was talking to the press about his cousin who he was close with and his friend, and he couldn't be happier for the man. As Thompson said, "You don't know how ecstatic I am about this. I was just with him on day 1 of the draft. He hadn't been picked, and he said, if I don't get drafted, I'm heading homeward." He meant that he was going back to the islands. In other words, this was a make-or-break moment for Samoa that would determine his future and where he would live. And for Samoa to not only stay in the continental United States and keep his dream alive, but to play alongside his cousin, who advocated to the front office to draft him, was awesome. You could even see Thompson handing the ball off to Samoa, potentially in the offense if Samoa transitioned to running back. Just a feel-good moment in so many ways. Seems like a really heartwarming story that brings out the best in the NFL draft and brings out the joys of sports. No issue with anything that Thompson had to say so far. And then it gets weird, because at that point, Thompson decided to follow up that quote by saying, First, it was the whites dominating sports. Next came the blacks. Now, it's our turn. I mean, okay? Kind of weird to say that, not gonna lie, but I'll give it a pass, seeing as I sort of get where he's coming from. Let he who never made a Cooper DeJean white defensive back pick 6 joke at the Super Bowl cast the first stone. This was a big moment for American Samoa to have someone get drafted from the island. And maybe you could interpret this as saying that the American Samoans on the same team are going to be unstoppable, are going to take over the NFL, and lead the Bengals to greatness. So, okay. I can kind of understand the logic and the thought process, even if I'm not sure it's the smartest idea to say it out loud. As long as it stops there, we're good. As long as Jack Thompson stops here, we're okay. I'm sorry, what? Did you just compare your cousin getting drafted to Adolf Hitler? Did you seriously just do that? Super race? Master race? Who the heck thinks like that? Who thinks, yeah, my cousin got drafted, we're the master race now, Hitler had his idea of a master race, and this is ours. For those who don't know who Adolf Hitler is, or what the heck I'm talking about, I suggest you read quite literally any history book ever. Pick up a textbook, go to your local library, do something, because I don't think the man needs any introduction, seeing as he has to be the most infamous person of the 20th century for all the wrong reasons, and maybe the most infamous person in world history. I don't even know what to say to this, especially seeing as the master race was literally about killing people who were not part of the race. You can't just say super race in a non-historical context talking about a group of people without raising a ton of eyebrows, especially when you invoke the name Adolf Hitler alongside it. Any general manager or head coach that drafted nothing but white players or black players and said that this was his idea of a super race like Hitler had his would be fired on the spot. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. There are certain quotes that when you see them and read them aloud for the first time, they make your jaw drop. And this is one of them. There are many things that would be going through my mind if someone in my family accomplished something big and reached a huge milestone. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that Hitler and Nazis would not be one of them. Like, I don't think I need to continue explaining why this was wrong and why you probably shouldn't be able to connect the NFL draft to Adolf Hitler that easily. For what it's worth, when it came to this man right here and his cousin, who had nothing to do with this, by the way, Samoa Samoa did not make it onto an NFL roster and never played a single snap in the league. So Jack Thompson's prediction that American Samoans were going to take over and become the master race across the NFL, as horrible as that was, wasn't even close to accurate. But I'm going to give some advice to any NFL players or any NFL people watching this video right now. After the draft is done, no matter if you like your pick, how much you like your pick, or if you hate your pick, do not compare any one of your picks in any way, shape, or form to Adolf Hitler. In fact, you probably shouldn't compare anything to Hitler. Unless we're talking about genocide, I can probably count on one hand the number of things that should be compared to Adolf Hitler without seeming grossly insensitive. And the NFL draft is absolutely not one of them. Are you allowed to be excited that someone from your country and your cousin got drafted, especially to play for your team? Absolutely. Go nuts. Are you allowed to invoke Hitler's name and say it's the super race? Probably not. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this is heavily frowned upon. Because in 1981, the only thing worse than Jack Thompson's decision-making on the field was his decision-making off of it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you have not done so already, as it helps the channel out a lot, and check out my other channels, JG8 for the history of college football, JG7 for the history of baseball, and JG9 News, where we talk about all things happening in the NFL. Join me every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we'll play live NFL trivia for cash prizes. And make sure to join me live as we're on stream just about every single day. And thanks to all our Patreon members and our YouTube members for helping out the channel. See how you become a member and show your support financially in the description down below.